Let's talk about the psychological impact of all of this. I spoke to a mom today. Her daughter's overseas, fearful she has COVID-19. Even if she wanted to jump on a plane and go see her, she can't because she's in self-isolation. We're hearing these stories of families in New York. They want to be next to their patients that are in ICU. They can't be anywhere near them. Talk to us about the ongoing, lasting impacts of this virus.
Oh, yes. There's so much that we can talk about as far as the emotional and physiological impacts of this. There's different stages of development of how we have treated this. The first stage, you could see just from previous weeks, has been a lot of anxiety, a lot of survival mechanisms kicking into place to go out and get stuff that we need in order to, stay safe and to be in isolation. And now we're actually seeing a development here where there's a lot more emotion. There's grief that we're seeing, grief and longing for the life and the rituals and the routines that we used to have. And it's a lot harder to stay in isolation than most people, realized. And especially in the story that you were mentioning, these stories now where people are not able to be with their loved ones in critical times. And that is something that we're just not used to. And we're certainly not built for that. So this is definitely something that most of us haven't experienced before and can cause a lot of anxiety and a lot of mixed emotions.
And Michelle, there's so many dimensions to this. I mean, the National Coalition Against Sexual Violence predicting a spike in sexual violence, the National Domestic Violence Hotline, they're seeing an increase in calls. Talk to us about that aspect of this as well.
Yes, this is so unfortunate. When abusers are in the same area and with their victims, we definitely see a spike when it comes to domestic violence. And this is something we must take action on and be very, very serious about. One of the things that happens is when an abuser has a routine or is going out and has a job or what have you, at least the victim has an opportunity to talk to others, talk to their support groups, have their, means to try to get out of the situation. But when they are at home and they're isolated, it is very, very dangerous. And one of the things that I want to express very clearly is that there is help. There are people out there that are readily available to help victims. So please contact your local authorities, reach out to your support groups. You are not alone in this.
Anxiety and depression, those are also parts of any type of isolation. How do you deal with that?
Well, there are many ways to deal with the isolation aspect of this. So one of the things that we try to do, especially from a mental health perspective, is try to change the dynamic of our thinking process. It gets very easy to get locked up in thinking about, anxiety and depression and feeling these different moods. And we need to validate those emotions because they are very real. This is something unprecedented. We haven't seen this in our modern history where a global pandemic has really caused such a change in everybody's life. And there are real things to grieve here as far as loss of jobs or wages or, transitions, children being at home. So it just creates a lot of feelings. So what we want to try to do in these moments is, one, the first thing that you can do is be very mindful of your emotions, acknowledge them. And then the second thing, try to reframe them into ways where we can achieve goals by staying at home and being with our loved ones, whether that's engaging in activities we haven't done before with them or it's been a long time. Things can be as simple as board games or, taking time with the kids. You're still able in some places to go out and walk and participate in things outdoors as long as you're practicing social distancing. So certainly I've seen a lot of wonderful things. I actually had a family get back to me today talking about how they haven't had a chance to go hiking with their children and they were practicing that social distancing and they were able to see beautiful things with their children outdoors. So we are still able to do things and to go ahead and reframe this and an opportunity to do things you haven't been able to do for a while.
And Michelle, we know anybody who goes to see a therapist, one of the things that they get on the receiving end is somebody who listens, that empathy, that connection, that's missing when you're isolated. How do you deal with that?
Yeah, so when you're isolated, a big thing that I've been seeing that actually I'm very encouraged about is people who are using technology and they're actually using the internet and platforms where they're able to do face-to-face contact and have happy hours with friends and still engage in a way that's still social. Even dating, we've seen people that are now using technology in a way to date online and participate in things that they haven't done before. It's not the same necessarily as being in person, but you can still use technology to benefit. And if you're able to practice social distancing, that we still can engage, but just make sure that you follow in the COVID guidelines that are mandated.
A different form of courtship, I guess, in a sense. So, Michelle, thanks so much. Really appreciate it.